Let's bring in our sports correspondent, Rob Harris. Rob, there'd been much debate about whether or not this could happen. They did lose at the weekend, but it comes quite soon after the ownership had backed him once again, so it does come as a surprise.
Yes, Manchester United's ownership had decided to keep Erik ten Hag at the end of last season, despite apparently approaching other potential managers to take his job. Yet this start of the season has been woeful for United. They're sitting ninth in the Premier League, a fourth defeat of the season yesterday to West Ham. They've only won 3 matches, already 12 points behind their great rivals Manchester City, who really have overtaken them as the force. And while this is a big decision for the new Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe, control of Manchester United, it really is just following a trend since Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement in 2013. Ten Hag is their 5th manager in those 11 years. Of course, they've still not won the Premier League since Sir Alex retired. So it's not just a Ten Hag issue, but he has really struggled. This coming part the way through his 3rd season in charge. And while he did deliver 2 domestic trophies, the League Cup 2 seasons ago and the FA Cup last season, the Premier League performances have just not been good enough. The fact they're not playing in the Champions League is not only damaging for United's reputation, but also financially too. This is a team that expects to be at the top table of European football, and now a big decision for Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who back in February secured control of football operations, while it's still the American Glazer family who do own the club ultimately. For now it is Ruud van Nistelrooy, a former striker who knows all about winning trophies at United, who is in temporary charge while they do search for that permanent head coach. But there will be questions over how Ineos is running the club, having decided to keep Ten Hag on, seemingly because they did win the FA Cup in May, but then their decision to stick with him ultimately backfiring because of this woeful start to the season.
And I guess, Rob, just to wrap it up, I mean, there's always a question mark as to, we're talking about economic inheritances and whose fault the current statistics are in another vein here on Sky News today. But with 2.5 or 2 and a bit seasons and quite a lot of money that the club has given him to buy on players, is that ultimately his responsibility for where they sit, which I think is actually 14th in the league? Well,
they've spent so much money on players in the post-Alex Ferguson era, but those signings have just not worked out. And Ten Hag has had time to shape the squad in his vision. He's certainly had the support in terms of the coaching staff and, signed many players familiar with from his time in the Netherlands as well. But he isn't managing to get those results out of those players. Yes, yesterday he was blaming refereeing decisions, but that's not just the only thing contributing to all of this. He has cut quite a sort of despondent figure at times, and certainly having seen rival managers approached potentially to replace him in the summer, it did somewhat undermine his position. The fact he then did stay on and was back to go into this season. But yeah, looking at that table, the fact they are so low down the table is not a place Manchester United expect to be. Sitting so low, Manchester City at the top, Manchester United in 14th place, a team that was winning the title so often under Sir Alex Ferguson over all those years. But it is a sign of the rebuilding job that they're constantly going through. This constant churn of managers is something Manchester United weren't used to. Sir Alex Ferguson was there for more than 26 years. Now they've had 5 permanent managers in the 11 years since Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement. And certainly Sir Alex Ferguson was backed even when results weren't going his way in those early years after taking charge in 1986. It's a very different era now. Managers don't get time. They have to deliver fairly quickly. And no manager since Sir Alex has managed to win the Premier League title, despite big names like Jose Mourinho also being amongst them as well. And now Ten Hag has been fired.